So welcome to the Node.js Next 10 team meeting for March 30th, 2022. We'll follow the agenda, which was tagged in the issue, which was in issue number 125. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share? Oh, I have somebody else to promote here. Great. Just want to paste the link there. So, okay, so if there's no announcements, we will start to look at what we had in the agenda and go from there. Hi, Roy. Okay, so the first one is identify next mini summit topics number 117. I think that one we can close out since we've identified those topics and there is an issue in the repo for the next summit, which is next week. Anything else anybody thinks we should discuss on that before closing?
Not really.
Okay, so then let's do that. I will close it. I'm just going to add the link to the issue with the topic, with the issue for the next summit there, and then close it. Okay. The next summit, OpenJS World 2022. That one, I think we've discussed and we have a topic. I think if I remember, actually, you and I, Joe, I think volunteered to do the submissions.
Yep.
But I know I haven't yet, so I don't have anything to report on that.
I haven't yet either.
Okay, so I'll try and do that before the next meeting. I can go back to the minutes and look at the ones. I think Joe and I each volunteered to do a couple, so we'll get those submitted. I think, Joe, at this point, the summit repo is ready for submissions, right?
It is, yeah. I still feel like there could be a little bit more there to help folks, but I think it's good enough, and we should just start reaching out to people.
Yeah, and promoting and stuff. So okay, so we'll make the submissions, and hopefully next week we could take a look at them and discuss tweaks, whatever, that kind of stuff. Okay. Okay, create the communications channels to the periodicals and newsletters.
Yeah, so I talked to Robin about this because you know, you and I talked, Michael, and you know, Robin's very open. Robin, the executive director of the OpenJS Foundation, is very open to figuring out, you know, what works well. She seemed even open to, you know, I think when we were talking about it, we were trying to find some sort of middle ground between, you know, collaborators who are in GitHub and that's, you know, primary action versus, you know, perhaps like marketing folks who are, you know, not as well versed. But she seemed open to even like just having people tag her, which I think, you know, is maybe not the best approach, but maybe having either a team that she could be on, or she and Alex or any other folks, or, you know, any of the thoughts that we had, Michael, like around a separate repo and, you know, whatever I think was easiest for the collaborators, she would kind of meet us there.
Right. Okay. So that's good. I mean, I think that, you know, and everybody here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think something that would be pretty easy for most collaborators who are already in the GitHub is to like open an issue in a repo that says, you know, here's a piece of news we'd like to get out. And if the, you know, somebody on the foundation side, Robin or whoever, could, you know, once a week pull that together and send it out to a mailing list of interested, you know, news groups or whatever, that would probably help bridge the gap, right?
Yeah, but I do wonder, Michael, how much this conversation overlaps with what we were talking about in another conversation, which I think is public, right? There's an issue in the TSC about noteworthy stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I think they may be something different, but it is interesting that maybe some of that noteworthy stuff would go in as well. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to recall the exact impetus for this conversation, and I wasn't sure, you know, if it was more related to work in PRs that should be socialized sooner and maybe be open longer. In addition
I
to
think
changes.
this was more external looking versus like that discussion is the internal looking, like even for collaborators who watch the repo, they're not necessarily, you know, they that other discussion is like it would still be good to help surface important things for them to be aware of. But I think even like this is more the greater community of like there's some great thing, you know, great publications like Node Weekly and some others, and we can get interesting things out to that larger group. You know, for example, hey, there's a mini summit on something. If we think that that larger group would be interested, and how do we sort of feed stuff versus it just being ad hoc, what gets picked up? And I think in this case, it kind of requires somebody to be volunteering to help craft the message, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No, I
like
get it.
an issue that has like, you know, a ton of comments on it isn't going to be that sort of here's the paragraph that makes sense. So that's why I think like in this case, it's somebody saying, we want to go to the bigger community, and I'm volunteering to sort of help craft the message. Here's the message I want to send out, right? And have sent out, and probably answer questions or whatever if those groups have any questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Internal versus external makes sense. Yeah, I'm maybe just confusing the two.
I think they are related in the sense of like that could help us identify things that we may want to then push out to a larger group at some point, right? Like the notable changes, then the things that are notable may also be useful to get broader input on.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about it further. There's definitely overlap. Because like, for example, you know, there are a couple of people that were surprised by the test runner work that are not collaborators. So there's definitely some overlap.
Right. Like if there was like if you wanted to get broader input, you could have been like, hey, heads up, there's work going on within the Node community to look at a built-in test runner. You know, if you have thoughts or whatever,
Yeah.
Be aware or whatever.
Yep.
So I mean, it seems pretty low overhead. Although since we were talking about it being in the social team, good to have your feelings on that from being in the social team. You know, a repo where you can open an issue saying, here's the message we want to get out to those, you know, those periodical publications, whatever. And then like, hey, you know, if we did that, you could open it there. We could then have the offer to the people we want to share that information. Either they could just watch the repo directly, or they can subscribe to a mailing list where they'll get a summary once a week.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think the question becomes, you know, where do we do this? If we want to do it in a repo, do we want to do it in a Node.js repo, or do we want to do it like in the OpenJS repo so that other projects could potentially take advantage of this approach as well? You know,
the question would be like, say for the target audience, are they going to be Node specific or JavaScript specific? Like, I guess like Node Weekly is Node specific, but will they mine some extra stuff in the repo?
Oh, so you mean like subscribers?
Yeah, the subscribers. Like from the creators, I don't think it make, if we're just gonna have a repo, you create an issue. I don't think it matters to, say the Node project, whether it's in Node or it's in the OpenJS Foundation. The only effect is on the subscribers. And I can see, my gut feel is it's not going to be such high traffic that it's a detriment, and it may be a positive to have it at the OpenJS level because, hey, as depending on my periodical or newsletter or whatever it is, I may be covering JavaScript, so I may want news from more places.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like Node Weekly and JavaScript Weekly. That's all run by Cooper Press. They may have one person come to the repo and be like, okay,
Right.
this goes there, that goes there. I don't think there'll be too much noise. I think it'd be fine.
So that's where my feelings, why don't we start with that? And if it becomes too noisy, tons of stuff, hey, that's good, and people are like, hey, I'm watching this, but there's too much. We can always adjust it. But and it gives potentially more value and like an offering. I think that's actually nice for the foundation to say, like, here's one of the services that we give you. We actually help bridge the gap here.
Yeah, between coders and marketing folk.
So I like that idea, and maybe PR into the technical strategy then. The process / offering. I'm just thinking like this will probably fit in the technical strategy at the OpenJS level. Like, we help projects buy X, and we could describe this and how it works and line that up like that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take the I'll take the action to open the PR for that. And then we can just, sort of close in the OpenJS repo, and we can then hopefully, just create the repo and move forward with it.
Yeah. I'm making a note to talk more with Robin and Jory and Alex.
Yeah, and I think if we open that PR, we can point them to it to say, hey, does this look like what you think you agreed to, thought was reasonable?
Yeah, sounds good.
As well as confirm with the CPC and everything that they agree it makes sense at the OpenJS level. And if not, we can always fall back to the Node repo.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. The next thing is on the agenda, suitable types, mini summit deep dive. That one, I don't think there's anything report this week. I think I did mention last time. Let me just find the minutes for last time. And actually here, I'm going to paste this in the chat. It'd be good to get at least one approval so I can land this, the minutes from last week. But just kind of the other thing that, there's sort of like some follow-up was March 16th. Yeah, I mentioned last time that, there's a PR with documenting what we discussed in the single executable application support. And, there's been some discussion from the people who were in the summit and trying out and commenting on the proof of concept. So I think we've got some good action going on that front. And on the types front, I think that the next step is refining the doc guidance a little bit. And I believe Tierney met with Rich, and there's a path forward on that. So that takes us to what was on the agenda. I think the thing we should now just double check is the summit itself and make sure that we're all aligned and think that we're ready for that. So I'm going to open that issue. So for anybody, if you want here, just pasting that in the chat. So we have it scheduled. It's the 7th, 10 to 2. Thanks, Joe, for adding it to the calendar. I think I see what I did wrong. I added it to my calendar, but I forgot to move it to the right one. So, but thanks for adding it. So it's in the public calendar.
Yeah.
We've got 2 topics, WASM and security model policies. I pinged a few people on the WASM side, and it looks like, we'll actually have some people like Lynn Clark from the and possibly Luke Wagner from the WASM side to help us in that discussion, which is good. And Colin recommended a number of people who hopefully are now aware and may show up. The security model of side of things, actually, and just before we switch to the security model, I see, Jean, you mentioned of interest to the NAPI working group, right?
Yep, right.
That is a very good point. I'm going to send an email to that group right now. So, and I'm going to do it before I forget. If I can find my last meeting. Here, sorry, it'll just take me a second to grab all the. Okay. Okay, so this wasn't 10 mini summit wasn't. So sorry, now I gotta. Just one more second, I'll be done with that. Okay, where are we? Okay, so that's sent. That's a good point. And I guess then the other side is like, who might we want to reach out to in terms of the security model, policies, that kind of stuff. Don't know if anybody have any additional ideas. I guess, Joe, I don't know if you've had any, although it's maybe a little bit for different audience, like in terms of, I know you're going to spin up the security collaboration space. If there's anybody from there you think would be worth giving an FYI.
Yeah, I reached out to Liren.
Yep.
I should maybe reach out to Marcin. I don't know if he's aware. I would think he would be through the Node channels, but I'm not sure.
Actually, yeah. Do you know his? We can just FYI him here because I'm not sure. Do you know what his GitHub handle is? Is that?
Let me see.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay.
I also wonder if there's anybody. Yeah, and yeah, you like Vladimir's probably a good person.
Yeah.
I guess also security, anybody on the security triage team. I'm also wondering about, we had some resources from Trail of Bits helping at one point. I'm going to reach out to Robin just to see. Okay, I've just sent a quick message to Robin, and we'll see if maybe we can get somebody there interested. Let's see who else maybe. Maybe it's worth. I'm just gonna in there ask. And Loren, should we? Finds Loren. Just looking for Loren's GitHub to ask if they may have suggestions as well, in addition to being interested. Okay, just thinking, any other thoughts of who? That's maybe a good set of things, a good set of people to FYI to get the discussion going there. And I guess if that's, I think that was the only other thing I thought was useful to do. So we have that scheduled for next week. Anything else we should talk about before closing out for this week? If not, thanks for everybody's time, and hopefully we'll see you at the mini summit next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.